is just the news, and in a slight difference to what we've been doing over the last few weeks, we're moving things around a little bit. Given the fact that the emergency situation around COVID has subsided to some extent, we're going to switch around the news and bring you the other news first and put the COVID updates in the middle of the bulletin. But they're there because they continue to be important and we'll continue to focus on them. So let's get straight to it. Let's take a look at all of the news that you need to know today without any of the drama. To begin with, the Centre on Thursday told the Supreme Court that CBSE will be adopting a 30-30-40 evaluation formula for the marks of the class 12 students. Remember, their examinations were cancelled. Now, the CBSE has divided the marks assessment into two components, theory and practicals. In the theory component, 30% weightage will be given to the average scores of the class 10 examination for these students in 3 best performing subjects out of 5. Another 30% will be for the class 11 final examination, and 40% will be from one or more either unit tests, midterm examination or pre-board examinations for class 12. On the practical component side, the calculation will be on actual basis of marks uploaded by the schools on the CBSE portal. Results will be declared on the 31st of July. But according to the Indian Express, when the Supreme Court was hearing a case on the arguments for a plea seeking direction to cancel class 12 examinations, today Attorney General, who is the lawyer for the Government of India, argued that CBSE students who are not satisfied with the evaluation formula will be given the opportunity to take the examinations when the pandemic situation becomes more conducive. So remember that there is no reason to panic if you feel that these marks will not be ideally what you would like to have. Also, according to the Indian Express, Twitter may have lost legal protection in India as a social media intermediary for not having complied with the new IT rules. The article in the Indian Express, like the articles in many other news sources on this matter, quoted government sources and not an official direction from the government. There's been no official order from the government so far. Now, according to the IT rules, Twitter as well as several other social media platforms were needed to appoint a grievance officer, a nodal officer and a compliance officer with the deadline of the 26th of May. The IT Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad has said the government is not in favor of banning any social media platform, but he went on to say that Twitter has deliberately chosen the path of non-compliance with the Government of India. He said, and I quote, "It is astounding that Twitter, which portrays itself as the flag bearer of free speech, chooses a path of deliberate defiance when it comes to intermediary guidelines. Further, what's perplexing is that Twitter fails to address the grievances of its users by refusing to set up a process mandated by the law of the land. Additionally, it chooses a policy of flagging manipulated media only when it suits its likes and dislikes," end quote. The minister incidentally made this statement on Twitter. An FIR has been filed in Uttar Pradesh's Ghaziabad district against several journalists, the social media platform Twitter, and Congress leaders for, and I quote, "provoking communal sentiments" in the case of an elderly Muslim man who was allegedly attacked on the 5th of June. The FIR filed against journalists Rana Ayub, Saba Naqvi and Mohammed Zubair, along with online platform The Wire and several Congress leaders. They've been accused of tweeting, and I quote again, "without verifying facts and giving a communal color to the incident." The FIR has been registered under IPC sections promoting rioting, promoting enmity between groups, outraging religious feelings, mischief, criminal conspiracy, and common intent. Twitter has been accused of not removing the misleading content linked to the incident. The charges on the social media giant include intent to promote rioting, promoting enmity, and criminal conspiracy. Now, to give you context, a Muslim man was attacked in Ghaziabad. His beard was chopped off. The video went viral. He had particularly given a statement to several media outlets. In his statement, he had confirmed that he was asked to shout slogans. Now, the police had then come out and said that there is no communal angle in this case, that he was attacked because people were unhappy with the amulets that he had sold them, which they believe did not work. The Editors Guild of India has condemned the filing of this FIR by the UP police and said, and I quote, The Guild is deeply concerned by the UP Police's track record of filing FIRs against journalists to deter them from reporting serious incidents without fear of reprisals. It is the duty of journalists to report on the basis of sources and, in case facts become contested later on, to report the emerging versions and the facts. For the police to wade into such professional calls by journalists and attribute criminality to their action is destructive to freedom of speech, which is constitutionally protected and entrenched as a feature of the rule of law, end quote. Fundamentally saying that a journalist has to report all versions of the story, including what was said by the victim and what was said by the police. The Mathura court has dropped the case of breach of peace against Kerala journalist Siddique Kappan when he was on his way. Remember, this was filed against him when he was on his way to Hathras to meet the family of the Dalit woman who was allegedly raped and murdered last year. Now, the court has observed that the police failed to complete their inquiry within the prescribed 6 months. Siddique Kappan has been in jail for 6 months. Mr. Kappan is in custody since the 7th of October last year. He still has, though, other cases against him, including promoting enmity between groups, outraging religious feelings, sedition, conspiracy, and UAPA, which is raising funds for a terrorist act. He remains in jail. Just 3 days ago, India signed off on a joint statement by the G7 countries on open society to reaffirm and encourage values of freedom of expression, both online and offline, as a freedom that safeguards democracy and helps people live free from fear and oppression. The statement refers to politically motivated internet shutdowns as one of the threats to freedom and democracy. Our Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, was speaking at the event when he said democracy and freedom are part of India's civilization ethos. According to the Prime Minister's office, Mr. Modi stressed on the need to ensure that the cyberspace remains an avenue for advancing democratic values and not subverting it. He also shared concern expressed by several other leaders on open societies being vulnerable to disinformation and cyber attacks. The joint statement that India also signed off on at the G7 said, and I quote, "We are at a critical juncture, facing threats for freedom and democracy from rising authoritarianism, electoral interference, corruption, economic coercion, manipulation of information, including disinformation, online harms and cyber attacks, politically motivated internet shutdowns, human rights violations and abuses, terrorism and violent extremism," end quote. India has effectively endorsed the fact that the internet must remain free and freedom of speech and expression is a cornerstone of democracy. Moving on now to our updates on COVID. The numbers are dropping constantly. India has now reported 67,208 new COVID cases, 2,330 deaths. The deaths still remain above 2,000 per day. Kerala reported the highest number of new cases at 13,270, followed by Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra. According to the Union Health Ministry, India's recovery rate is increased to 95.93%. The daily positivity rate is 3.48%. It has been less than 5% now for 10 consecutive days. Following allegations of fake COVID tests being conducted during the Kumbh Mela, the Uttarakhand government has directed the Haridwar administration to register a case against the private labs. This comes after there were reports that private labs conducted 1 lakh fake tests to meet the quota of conducting 50,000 tests regularly set by the Uttarakhand High Court. Now, 22 private labs were hired to conduct tests during the festival. Remember, it was held between the 1st and the 30th of April. There were 70 lakh devotees who attended the Kumbh Mela, out of which 2 lakh tests were supposedly conducted and 2,600 tested positive. Well, now we're hearing allegations that half of those tests might have been fake. During a meeting with the Maharashtra Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray, the State Health Department has warned that the Delta Plus variant could cause a third wave of COVID in the state of Maharashtra in just a few weeks. The state-appointed task force expressed worry that the third wave of the pandemic could hit Maharashtra in a month or two if COVID-appropriate behavior is not followed. The task force believes that the population segment that escaped COVID in the first 2 waves are most vulnerable. A senior official told the Times of India there will not be the upper and the middle classes, but the lower middle class who either missed the virus in the first two waves or have highly depleted levels of antibodies that will be hit hard, end quote. The state recorded, remember, 19 lakh patients in the first wave and 40 lakh patients in the second wave. Health officials believe the third wave could see about 8 lakh active patients, of which they worry that 10% could be children. Moving on now to news coming in from across the world. The United States Center of Disease Control has now classified the Delta variant of COVID, which is the highly transmissible COVID variant that was first identified in India, as a variant of concern. According to CNN, the World Health Organization classified the Delta variant as a variant of concern back in May, on the 10th of May. The CDC of the US now estimates that this variant accounted for about 9.9% of the cases in the US as of the 5th of June. On the 13th of June, they said it accounted 10.3% of the cases, and this is according to the website Outbreak Info that tracks variants. Well, a lot of updates today on the world of sports. Let's get to it. Rafael Nadal says he will not play Wimbledon or the Tokyo Olympics on Thursday. The Spaniard said that he has decided to skip both tournaments after listening to his body. Nadal took to Twitter to announce his decision. He posted, and I quote, "I have decided not to participate in this year's championships at Wimbledon and the Olympic Games at Tokyo. It's never an easy decision to take, but after listening to my body and discussing with my team, I understand that it was the right decision," end quote. In football, Italy has become the first team to qualify for the last 16 at the European Football Championship. The Italian team swept past Switzerland in a 3-0 victory. Italy has won the last 10 games that they have played, and they're also on a 29-match unbeaten run. Italy's firepower will be tested in the knockout phases of the tournament that are coming up, but little has gone wrong so far for the Roberto Mancini team. Italy will play Wales on Sunday to see who finishes at the top of their group. Cristiano Ronaldo's action of moving the Coca-Cola bottles placed in front of him at a press conference has caused quite a stir. An article at The Guardian has attributed his action to a very sharp fall in the Coca-Cola stock on the same day. Ronaldo encouraged people to drink water instead. Now, he is known in the past also to not support aerated drinks. The 5-time Ballon d'Or winner had removed the 2 bottles of Coca-Cola and instead held up a bottle of water saying "Agua" in Portuguese. Coca-Cola, which is one of the official sponsors of Euro 2020, in a statement said, and I quote, "Everyone is entitled to their drink preferences." Following Ronaldo, France midfielder Paul Pogba was also seen removing the non-alcoholic Heineken beer from his table. Heineken saw its shares fall marginally on the Amsterdam Stock Exchange on Thursday. One piece of positive news before we leave you for the day. Shyam Sundar Jiani, a Rajasthan-based climate activist, has won the prestigious United Nations Land for Life Award for his environment conservation concept, familial forestry. Familial forestry is a concept of Shyam that relates a tree with a family, making it a green family member. Mr. Jiani has been campaigning for familial forestry now for 15 years. The UN Convention to Combat Desertification, in its statement, said familial forestry means transferring the care of a tree and the environment in the family so that the tree becomes part of the family's consciousness. More than 1 million families from more than 15,000 villages of the desert-prone northwest Rajasthan in over 2.5 million saplings have been planted in the last 15 years, with active participation of students and desert dwellers. That brings us to the end of the news today. Do leave us your comments. Leave us a thumbs up if you heard the whole bulletin and you reached the end of the bulletin. I'll know then how many of you are watching till the very end. And let us know what parts of this bulletin you find most interesting and what areas of news you'd like us to focus on more. It'll be our pleasure to improve this broadcast for you. Thank you for watching. Good night.